It's 118 Days with the Tudors, and today we're looking at 1599. And this is the year that Reginald Scot died. He was the author of A Discovery of Witchcraft. So Reginald Scot produced a book that was supposed to act as an alternative or a counter to the famous Malleus Maleficarum, which you've probably heard of as the Hammer of Witches. That was written a century prior, and this book talked about the evils of witchcraft, how to spot a witch, how to get rid of a witch. It argued that witchcraft was heresy, people should be burned at the stake, and they should be tortured to procure confessions. He's arguing the opposite of this. Firstly, he's arguing that it's blasphemous to attribute things that God has done to vile creatures. So, for example, saying things like storms and thunder and lightning, maybe even famine, are the result of witchcraft, because you're taking something that God's done and making it something evil. Secondly, he's suggesting that the people that have been accused of witchcraft are actually in need of help, not persecution. So you've got two schools of thought at play. You've got the Hammer of Witches saying those who believe in supernatural powers can get them via a pact with the devil. And you've got Reginald Scot saying, let's just be a bit more sceptical here. Maybe this doesn't exist. Something to bear in mind with witchcraft in this period. When they're getting these accusations, they're not really thinking of witchcraft how we might think of it today. It's not, necessarily people that were coming up with ways to heal people or maybe cast in some cosy spells. What they believed is that these are people with no superpowers, regular people that have decided to make a pact with the devil. If it's a woman, they've probably agreed to marry the devil, and through this union with the devil they've been granted supernatural powers. So it's very separate to how we might imagine witchcraft today. It's more about this pact with the devil, and he's giving you the ability to do terrible things to the people around you, and you've made this diabolical pact with him. You've agreed to be his wife, and this is the sort of nonsense that they wanted in confessions. This is what they thrived on, and this is the sort of stuff people ended up saying. So this is where the argument is. The Hammer of Witches argues for this type of witchcraft. People are signing up with the devil and getting their supernatural powers. Reginald Scot is saying this isn't true. This isn't real. He described the belief of witchcraft as being this: the common opinions of witches contracting with the devil's spirits or familiars, and their power to kill, torment, or consume the bodies of men, women, and children, because eating the dead was another characteristic, and they're flying in the air, to be but imaginary, erroneous conceptions. So he's saying this whole notion of people signing up with the devil, being able to fly, consuming dead bodies, is made up. And then he says something which I think is really modern in outlook. He says, the lewd, unchristian practices upon aged, melancholy, ignorant, superstitious people, in exhorting confessions by inhumane terrors and torture, is notably detected. He also argues that the mentally unwell, aged, poor, deformed and ignorant are being condemned and executed by witchcraft when actually they need medicine and food. So he's saying that people are rounding up people that are elderly, that have mental health conditions, that are ignorant, so maybe haven't received a proper education, or people that actually are in need of some medical help and food, and rather than helping them, they're just pinning these labels on them to persecute them. So as I said, I think that's quite more of a modern take, but he got huge criticism for it. People didn't like it. People didn't like him attacking this view they had of witchcraft as being the cause of all their troubles. So As we know, James VI was a bit obsessed with witches, and there's even a myth that he was burning Reginald Scott's work. We don't know exactly if that's true or not, but he did actually attack it in his own work on demonology. English authors attacked him. One referred to him as being a patron of witches, and another accusing him of atheism, which makes no sense at all. He was saying stop taking away God's glory for things like the rain. However, it did continue to be printed, this work, right during the 17th century and the 19th century. And something else I really like about Reginald Scott were his final words to his wife when he died. He said, "Great is the trouble my poor wife hath had with me, and small is the comfort she received from my hands." So not only was he this kind of voice of reason behind the persecution of people for witchcraft, he also seems like he was an unusually thoughtful husband for the time. So that's 1599, our last day in the 16th century. Reginald Scott died, who produced this very interesting discourse on witchcraft. I'll see you tomorrow for 1600, first day of the 17th century, when we're going to talk briefly about the 9 Years' War with Ireland, and Robert Devereux is dismissed from office. So he's on the way down. See you then.